All right, guys, we are live. Football No Filter is back, episode number 12.
No,
I am your
14.
host, Bruno
14.
Crack. I am with my companions, o Olhinhos do Steph. Só ver os olhinhos hoje, that's it. And up his nose. Steph, how you doing, man?
First, first of all, it's episode 14.
Yeah, 14, 12, é a mesma coisa.
No, no, no. 12, that was 2 months ago. Attention, huh?
Pronto.
But yeah, so I'm doing fine. So I'm kind of, I have an infection going on, so I can only show my eyes.
Okay. We don't know where that infection is. And Jorginho, how we doing today?
I'm wearing my headphones today, so my head doesn't explode too much.
Well, that's actually a great segue. George, yesterday, I know you were not happy. You were very silent in our chat. I can imagine you were decompressing after that loss.
Levei tumba. Get it?
Tumba.
Tumba.
Yeah, Tumba lá no
Tumba
estádio.
Stadium. Tumba Stadium.
I understand you must have been very upset, and rightfully so, obviously. Take us through that match, man. I mean, tell me what you think. I know this is going to have a lot of financial repercussions, so go right ahead, man. Knock yourself out. Vent. We're all listening, including Steph.
Steph, not we lost even Steph size. No, listen. I thought it was. I thought we had a good chance of. We should have passed we should have won the game. I think when you on paper when you look at Benfica and PAOK, automatically you think Benfica has the obligation to pass, but the game still needs to be played. Whether I know it's going to be a topic of making fun and stuff like that. But Benfica is a team in construction when you look at it, right? So it's a new coach. Coach has, I think he's 4 weeks in, and that's what we get when we got to play these pre-eliminatory games. There's not enough time to get, especially with the new coach and new players. There's not enough time to get the team rolling and get the team to do the things that the coach wants to do. But it's no excuse, right? I think on paper, we need to pass what's on paper to the field, and we should have. The old saying, que não marca sofre, and end of the first, so let me start with the lineup. Look.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, did you have an issue with the lineup?
I did have an issue with the lineup, and at the
one.
So I have an issue at the midfield, and I think that's where the game was lost. It's on the midfield. My first thought when I saw the lineup and I saw Cebolinha on one side and Pedrinho on the other side, two players that are coming from Brazilian soccer, South American soccer, two players that by the nature of their of the style of soccer played in their country, they're more offensive than defensive. Okay. Playing against a team that already has 3-4 official games under their belt, where they're in a better physical condition. These two players are more attacking midfielders. And the problem with Benfica, I think the problem with Benfica yesterday, and the problem with Benfica the last year or so, it's when they're caught on counterattacks, right? I think those two attacking wingers, along with Weigl, whatever his damn name is, and Tarat on the midfield, there's not enough defensive players to compensate when Benfica loses the ball or lost the ball and we're caught on counterattack. And that's really the only place that PAOK could have hurt Benfica, would have been on the counterattack. I think Abel did a really good job bluffing at the end of the first half. If you saw the first half, we had a couple of opportunities. We should have definitely put away a couple of goals. But then, when we go into halftime, as a Benfica fan, because I was already pissed, and a lot of the people that I was, chatting with, were already pissed with the style of play of PAOK, where it's 11 players, behind the ball, but they're doing what they're supposed to do. And they're on paper, they're the lesser team, so they're playing with they're playing towards their strengths. But at the end of the first half, you think, you know what? Look, it's and second half, it's going to be the same thing. Second half, it's going to even be more of a defensive PAOK team, and it was totally opposite. Abel caught Benfica and caught Jorge Jesus off balance because they didn't come out the second half and play defensive. They actually, we actually started going up in the first half, in the second half, and that's where we got into a little bit of trouble. So my problem is on the midfield. You want to play Sublinha. Sublinha has to play. He's one of the best players. He's going to be one of the best players, and he was in Brazil, and he's going to be one of the best players in Portugal and hopefully in Europe. But I think on the other side, you got to play with Rafa. You got to play with the player that is a little bit more defensive, a little bit more speed, a little bit more defensive. We're not even going to talk about Servi. He's not. I don't think he was even convocado, and that's just a whole.
Servi was not on the bench.
He was. Because they want to sell him, and then on the midfield, look at the midfield. I don't think you can play. I think somebody posted some numbers yesterday on Facebook. A dupla Tarapt with Weigl. I think 12 games. We have 3 wins, 4 losses, and the rest are ties. So there's not enough. On the defensive side there. You got to put somebody like Gabriel. You got to put somebody like Florentine. You got to put somebody that's more of a holding midfielder. I don't think you can play with Tarapt and Weigl.
I'm going to interject because I know that you mentioned Gabriel, but Gabriel, it seems like for Cableira, he's really a defesa esquerdo. Mais famoso defesa esquerdo made in Seixal by Cableira. Agreed? Disagreed?
No, I don't think he has the characteristics of a physician.
I agree with you, but I'm just gonna stop you right there. I want to get Steph's input on this. Steph, you watched the game, I believe. Tell me what you thought about this whole situation.
I mean, I agree with George. It's a new team, even though Benfica does have good players. You just don't build a team within a month. All the hype, I blame the Portuguese media, and I understand Benfica is being disappointed, but they shouldn't go with the hype of the media. Everyone that's been following soccer for a while understands that when you buy new players, it will just take time to build that team, even though it's great players. They paid a lot of money for. You still don't know each other. You don't know your coach. You don't know the dynamics. So it takes time. And then to top it off, it was just one game. I spoke to Bruno about this. The one goal that Rafa scored towards the end, if this was 2 games, 1 home, 1 away, that goal would have been golden, because we know a goal away is very important. But the thing is, there's no second match no Stade da Luz. Because if it would have been that way, losing 2-1 in Greece, it wouldn't have been like such a big deal.
The end of the world.
Yeah. I think Benfica at home, no Stade da Luz, would have won the second game. But it's not the case to the COVID-19. And to that aspect, I agree with a lot of Benfiquistas. If it would have been 2 games, I think Benfica would have been going through the playoff stage of this Champions League. But it wasn't the case. And I hope Jorge Jesus and Luis Felipe Vieira, they've learned with their mistakes, which I doubt. But I hope they did. There's certain statements that you can say. There's certain things you can say, especially in our day and age, because of digital media. And now Portistas and Sportuguistas, they're having a field day on social media with memes and putting videos together of the stupid things that Jorge Jesus said at the apresentação. Now it's biting him in the ass. Such as, a gente não vai jogar o dobro, vamos jogar o triplo, vamos arrasar, arrasadores.
De arrasar. É de arrasar.
That's the things that in the modern football, soccer, you have to be careful. Because George hit it right on the nail. It takes time. It's a brand new team. No one is saying that Benfica is a bad team. They have an excellent team. But it's not in the month that you put your team playing. And Luis Vieira, he made himself look stupid as well with certain comments he said. And they're not even in the Champions League anymore. But the game itself, Benfica did dominate the first half. They should have been out by 2 or 3. Mas quem não marca sofre. É assim a vida. And then Abel Ferreira does know Jorge quite well. He was his assistant coach in Braga. So he knows him quite well. And he knows how he plays. And in the second half, like George said, he came out with a different style of game. Their counterattack was lethal with 2 fast players. E o jogador que nos dava para o Benfica marcou o gol da vitória. And they still could have tied the game in the second half, but and they lost fair and square to the aspect that PAOK scored more goals, they were more clinical, and tiveram mais aproveitamento. And that's it. Now, if you tell players, it's a lot of money. And the Liga Europa. I would think they go far in the Liga Europa, but of course, I hope my Sporting goes far as well. But they still have to clinch the group stage. But about Benfica, they did deserve to lose. They did. Congrats for believing in it until the end. And 40 million out the window. I'm familiar with that because Jorge Jesus did the same thing to Sporting when he lost the 3 last games in the last season, and he didn't think it was a big deal. And that's why I don't like those fanfarrões. Ele é treinador fanfarrão because he thinks he knows better than anybody else. E ontem levou no cu como gente grande. Mas quem ficou mais prejudicado, sem ironia, estou a falar isso de verdade, foi o Benfica. Não foi Jorge Jesus, porque ele ao fim do dia ele vai ganhar os 4 milhões e o Benfica agora é stuck with a coach, very expensive coach, com uma folha salarial altíssima, e agora tem que o Oliveira, o contabilista do Benfica, inventar mais um esquema.
Oh, there you go. Steph, you're done with your
Done.
Okay. George, so a couple of more questions that I have for you. Let's talk about this lineup. I mean, there's a lot of things that confused even me. So let's start with this. He starts Seferovic. Do you agree, disagree? Just short answer. Do you agree or disagree with that?
I disagree.
Okay. So he leaves Vinicius, which was your top goal scorer last year, on the bench. Was that the guy that you wanted to see, or did you want to see someone else?
Look, by nature, I like to see a 4-4-2 with 2 strikers,
Okay.
which is not how he likes to play. But I think for me, and I don't understand these teams and these soccer coaches, players that they just want to push out. They believe the best way to push them out is just by not playing them or not taking them to estágios or whatever, which it devalues the player. When a team knows that you want to get rid of a player, they're not going to offer you top money for the player, obviously. So it's happening at Porto, it's happening at Sporting with Acuna, it happened at Sporting, and with Benfica the same thing. So for me, you got to put Vinicius in. And on the midfield, you got to make a couple of changes. You gotta play with Rafa on instead of Pedrinho, and you got to put a more defensive midfielder in place of
Now,
Tarat.
I'm going to stop you right there. So, who is that midfielder that you are referring to that's a little bit more defensive?
For me, you got to play Florentino.
Okay, I would agree with that. I mean, I had a conversation with one of our listeners earlier today, and I think I think we would all agree, us three at least, that Florentino is probably your best midfielder overall. Is probably your best midfielder. Your team definitely plays much different when Florentino's in the lineup, and he somehow is not on the bench. I'm looking at the bench right now. I don't see him here.
Yeah, he wasn't even there.
Okay. Now there's another guy that again that kind of confused me. So you paid 26 million for Darwin Núñez, and he doesn't start. I found that very confusing as well. Any idea why that happened?
He's just not. He just didn't have enough time. There's not enough time for him to start. And when he goes in, you can see that he was kind of lost. So I think that was the right move. I think he was before the game. I thought that he wasn't going to start. I thought he was going to be put in around the 70th minute. I hope that he was put in the 70th minute with us winning already. I commented that he would go in around 70 minutes, and that's where he did. I think he went in like 66, 67 minutes of the game. But I think that was the right move.
The moment the second goal was scored, I believe.
Yeah. So I think that was the right move, not starting him. I think Vinicius has to start. I mean, what other teams? You tell me what other teams in Europe where your best scorer, not only the best scorer of your team, but the best scorer in the country, is not starting.
Right. That's very hard. I mean, I did not watch Cableda's press conference. Was that even asked of him, or do you guys not know that?
No, it wasn't an ask of him.
It wasn't.
No, they didn't ask him anything about the lineup or anything like that. I just think
Pedrinho
and no, it wasn't asked. That wasn't asked.
Okay,
and it was a quick conference.
It was
okay.
Most of his conference was him asking for more plays.
Okay.
Was him asking for another forward?
it was big, so they wouldn't put him on the spot.
I have one last question for you, George. You guys paid a good amount of money for Wald Schmidt.
Porra.
And he's probably, out of all the players that you guys just recently bought, he's probably the guy that's been there the longest working. Why was he not utilized in this game?
Of course.
I can't answer that question. I don't know.
All right. Now, there's another question that was brought up to me today, which was a very interesting one. Although Andre Almeida, you could probably say that he did not play terrible. He didn't play great, but he didn't play terrible. But Cableda did require that Benfica would spend some money on this guy, Gilberto. What's going on there that he's not the starting player at the moment?
Gilberto's not ready to be a starting player in Europe. Gilberto is a very offensive right defender, but he's not very tactical yet. He needs to be worked with Jorge Jesus, and time will see if it wasn't a tremendously expensive acquisition. It was 3 million euros. But I don't. He's definitely not, from the games that I've watched, the preseason games, and even from commentary. He gets lost when he goes upfield. He really gets lost, and he doesn't have the legs to come back and recover his position. So, in a game like yesterday's game, I think it was a very good decision to leave him off the team.
All right, and then my last question is going to be this one: what did you think of Pedrinho as a player? Did you like him in his role? Do you think that he's suited for Europe? Do you think he's suited for Cableda's team? Or he's just not a guy that he's just one of those 20 million, purchases, but there's not really a purpose to it?
No, listen, I liked him in the first half. He was really involved in the first half when we had the ball. But again, you had a lot of when Benfica loses the ball, you can tell that there's a lot of holes when the other team is attacking. You know, PAOK's two best players are on the left side of their attacking side. So, and I believe that's on our right
Andre,
side. That's on our right side. So that's Trim's side, right? So that both goals came from there. Both goals came. It came from I don't remember the name of the player, but
left.
then you have the midfielder, and then you have the young kid, the 18-year-old kid on the striker. And both
Right.
both goals came from that side. Both goals came from that side. Lost possessions of the ball in a quick transition up to our side, and there wasn't enough players. We were caught off guards, and that's where I'm saying that the midfielder. Listen, left midfield, right midfield, those are the hardest positions to play on the soccer field, because you need to do
Oh,
offensive game and defensive game. So you got to be able to run back, and you got to be able to help the defense.
all right.
Especially doing quick losses
Counters.
of possession, and there wasn't uh, right midfielder that could compensate. And then the two center mids, they were nowhere to be found during those plays as well. So that was the only time that PAOK was dangerous, was on counters. I mean,
Okay.
it was easy. It was easy to read the game. They pretty much closed down the center of the field, and then they pushed us to the sides, and on the sides they would just collapses. There was really not a lot of space on the sides. When we were most dangerous, it was when we had Tarat did a couple of those inner passes that he was really good at. Threading the ball through the lines. One was, I remember, first half he did a couple of them to try to do a couple of them to PZ. I believe second half Cebolinha missed that goal right off the whistle of the second half. And their keeper was in. He stepped on some shit before the game, because he defended everything. I mean, I think it's one of those games that we could have been there 2 more hours, and we wouldn't been able to score.
Well said. I mean, I would agree. Now, Steph, let's talk a little bit about the financial repercussions of this, and maybe the influence of this result on the elections. First question. Benfica lost 40 million euros. What do you think their next move is going to be? Is it going to be really impactful or not so much?
Well, it's a no-brainer that without being the Champions League, you lose right off the bat 40 million plus the additional money Benfica could have made with victories and moving from the group stage to 16 round of 16 and so on. So
Don't forget TV,
of course,
eventually ticket sales, merchandise.
all that stuff, sell of T-shirts. I mean, it goes on and on. So yes, the good thing that Benfica has, they have a great uh, guy in accounting, Oliveira. So I'm pretty sure you already thought about this scenario. He's not an amateur; he's been in Benfica for a while. So I'm pretty sure he gave two dossiers to Luis Vieira, one with the 40 million, one without, and a plan B without that money.
George is already shaking your head. So can we ask George why he's shaking his head?
Because it doesn't work like that. So for the fair play financeiro, the FIFA fair play financeiro doesn't work that way. So there's no other. The only so there's the calculations are your revenue without sales of players, And when you talk about that, you're very constricted on what your revenue is. So your revenues are, the UEFA and the Champions League. Obviously, the Champions League is what gives you the most revenue, and then you have bill data, you have marketing, you have TV rights, you have all that good stuff. You take away the
I was
that.
I was not even close to be done.
No, I was just waiting because he was shaking his head, so I just wanted to see why he was shaking his head. But okay.
No, I was just shaking my head because it doesn't. There's no second option. There's no option B.
No,
when you
option B would be Benfica's forced to sell players and to
Nope.
find revenue that you're talking about, because now without the
that it doesn't count, Steph. That revenue doesn't count for the fair play. The sale of players doesn't count towards the financial fair play.
Of course it does. It counts.
No, it doesn't.
If they're low,
No, it doesn't.
count.
No,
Right.
to calculate the percentage, it doesn't count. It's fixed revenue. So anything that's fixed revenue, it's not revenue. Revenue from sales of players does not count towards the fair play financeiro. So Benfica now, let's say Benfica now it's at 69%, maximum is 70%. The only thing that they can do is reduce payroll. So if they go out now, and they sell 2 or 3 players, it doesn't do anything to adjust the ratios, because that when at the end of the season, FIFA or UEFA they don't count how much money you made on sales of players towards calculating that ratio.
But okay. Salaries that you get rid of.
Brunch. Well, go ahead, Steph. Continue with your point. So I know that you were saying something about
For God's sake, if Benfica doesn't meet the fair play financeiro, olha, ainda bem como sportingista, estão a cagar para isso.
Steph, I think they're 1% away from.
I know, and they knew that from the get-go.
Right.
And it was a big risk. And Luis Felipe Vieira, playing with fire, not giving a shit about the institution of Benfica, he took that risk. And don't tell me that's worth it. You might have some Benfiquistas that will say it's worth it, but he's playing with the institution, the future of the institution. So to me, that was a risk that he shouldn't have taken. He should have been more calculista. But it is what it is. Now it puts him in a very delicate position to win the elections, and it gives a better chance to Noronha and Rui Silva to gain ground on him. Let's see if they win the next game against Famalicão. They should, because Famalicão is a completely different team from last season. They should win that game, but until October, which I think it's the elections of Benfica, I don't know the specific date. If Benfica has a couple more losses, then I can tell you that
well, complicado.
Luis Silva will jump on it com Noronha, and they might have a chance to win the elections.
Let me just get George's just quick a reply. George, do you think that they have these other presidents have an outside chance, or you think Orelhas has it locked?
No, I don't think any of them have a chance at winning the presidency.
Okay, all right, Steph. Let's continue with your analysis. Do you believe? I mean, George says no. You do believe that Rui Gomes da Silva does have a shot?
Yes, I do, because there's a lot of Benfiquistas like George that don't like Luis Vieira, and they see now that he's more of a Cigani Gatuno than he's not Benfiquista. I mean, people they
get about por acaso.
Espero bem que não, por amor de Deus. But
ele é sócio de todos os clubes.
Pois, exato. But listen, I'm not Benfiquista, so I'm not going to be here talking about stuff that might insult people and might be upset about it. But it goes beyond my understanding. Like, some people wouldn't understand why we support Bruno Carvalho, but now that's over with. And at the same time, that's a good thing, because I hope he'll never become a president of Sporting, because that's a closed chapter of our history. But the same thing goes for Benfica. I don't know why the obsession. What's the obsession about Luis Vieira, which he keeps on spending money that Benfica doesn't have, and they believe all the bullshit he feeds them. He feeds a lot of bullshit, and everybody believes him. And he's involved in so many cases of corruption, not involving Benfica on a personal basis alone. And why support and why applaud a person that's so corrupted and is the president of the club? And I'll admit it. And you won't see me doing this too many times. The biggest club in Portugal as far as domestic titles. I don't know why the fuck fans would want a president like him. I have no clue. No goddamn clue. But they support him. When he leaves, we are going to have a field day. It's going to be entertaining to see in how big the black hole is for Benfica financially. Because that's when you'll see everything come to a float. And you'll see how big of a crisis Benfica is. Benfica don't want to accept that. But you'll see it later, sooner or later, that it's a big financial hole. Uh, so I think Rui da Silva has a good chance to win the elections. And if I was Benfiquista, I would support him at 100% because you'd be better off with someone that's responsible, mature, someone that's been a Benfiquista all his life. We know he's been a Benfiquista life. He hasn't been portista ou sportinguista para usar as piscinas e os ginásios e o caralho. Não é o Gaddafi dos pneus. Não tem casos no Brasil de prédios falidos, and so on and so on. So I'm not Benfiquista, but I have a lot of friends, a lot of family members that are Benfiquistas, and now they see it that Luis Filipe Vieira is a gatuno. He's using the name of Benfica for his own benefit. That's all I got.
All right. Well, we're gonna be moving on. And we're
let me just say something on the election, Bruno.
Fala. Sim, pode.
I think Rui Gomes da Silva is actually going to be the one that has the lowest amount of votes. I think the way he goes about trashing Luis Filipe Vieira is actually hurting him and not helping him. And I think Noronha now actually has the upper hand on him. But at the end of the day, I think and we all know how the elections. Well, maybe our viewers don't know how the elections work, but the way the elections work is based on the older you are as a socio, the more your vote counts. And that's the issue with elections in these teams is that it's like in the US, you might win the popular vote like a couple of elections that we had, but you might not win the election, the electoral college. So so when it comes to these elections at Benfica, and the way Oreiras has changed the bylaws or the rules of the elections of these elections, it's almost impossible for anyone to win under these conditions. So at the end of the day, I think he's going to win, but I think there's going to be a lot of issues. I think what's going to happen in the near future. I think Domingos Soares de Oliveira is going to resign, like a couple of other big names have resigned already, and I think that's probably what's going to bring down the administration, because whether people believe it or not, well, Domingos Soares de Oliveira has already warned Luis Filipe Vieira that he's thinking about not being part of his administration in the upcoming elections.
Really?
Whether people, yeah.
Why would he say that?
Because at the end of the day, he's the chief financial officer of Benfica, and if the shit hits the fan, it's not going to be on Oreiras, it's going to be on him. So before the boat sinks, he's going to be like, peace out. And if he leaves, then Luis Filipe Vieira has a big problem then.
Yeah, because the shit will hit the fan. That's why he's predicting it already. Because he must have advised Luis Filipe Vieira, não faças isso, não gastes dinheiro todo, and he did. But one thing I would like to remind our Benfiquista fans is that remember when they threw the rocks at the Benfiquista bus at the bus? That was done, and it's proven by now by No Name Boys. So, and I'm not. I don't want to talk about that at all. It's just to make my point of view. Uh, this leads me to believe that No Name Boys they're not in really good terms with Luis Felipe Vieira.
Right.
So that's the nature of how Luis Felipe Vieira won the elections with those votes.
Right.
Name Boys, they most of the group
Os sócios do mundo ano.
já estão lá há muitos anos. E como o Jorge falou aí bem, que o Sporting tem a mesma merda de sistema que não vale um piso. When you have 20 years of sócio, it's like 20 votes. That your vote counts for 20 votes, which I'm totally against. Sporting has the same system. But I think this will give a chance maybe to Noronha because Bruno said the same thing when we spoke offline this afternoon, that Noronha is getting more credibility than Silva. And maybe that's the case. We shall see. It's going to be an entertaining elections for
election. The one thing I will say about the election is I think Rui Gomes da Silva's votes are going to hurt maybe more Noronha than anything. So very similar to what happened with the Porto election was Fernando Rio was hurt because Nuno Lobo ran versus just one candidate against the current president. I think this is where it's going to hurt because there are still many blind Benfiquistas that believe in what Luis Felipe Vieira has to say. So it's going to be very interesting. But I do believe that Noronha has a better shot than Rui Gomes da Silva. Steph believes that Rui Gomes da Silva has a better shot than Noronha. And George feels that Luis Felipe Vieira is going to clean them both up anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Which it's not that I'm happy with that.
I understand. I think Luis Felipe Vieira is going to win again. I think so too. Don't get me wrong. I think he's just in a more delicate position because he just lost 40 million euros. But like you said,
spending a lot of money.
There's a lot of Benfica still blinded by all the bullshit he feeds, and they believe they hand. Don't ask me why. I have no clue. But I've seen a lot more Benfiquistas now seeing that he is a piece of shit. Then now they see it. It takes a while to see such a thing, but I mean, how can you not believe how many cases of corruption is involved when it's one after the other, after the other, after the other? And don't you see it's affecting the institution of Benfica? Having a president that's involved in so many personal corruption cases, nothing to do with Benfica. It's like, why would you want such a person? I would rather have a person like, I don't really know the background of Noronha. I don't know if he has any cases pending. Silva, I know he's an honest guy. I agree with George. He's too aggressive in attacking Luis, and maybe that hurts him a little or a lot. I don't know. But
yeah, I think it hurts him a lot.
But how do you debate then? Don't you have to as your opponent?
Steph, you know, believe it or not, when he was on Udia Skint, there was a lot of Benfiquistas that would not like him as their representative. Believe it or not. And he's a Benfiquista as much as George. Okay?
Is it because he tem aquele estilo de croquete, assim, gente fina que...
ele era do
no, it's not. You know what it is. It's he's very. I think the big problem is that he stated a while ago that he would never run against Luis Felipe Vieira, and he was very defended him a lot, and especially in programs like the Seguinte. And I think people feel like he's taken advantage of the situation of the club now, where he was looking for the club to take a dip down so we can who he is, like Steph. He's like Dias Ferreira. He's one of those old timers that all they've done is they've always had an aspiration of being president of this club, and they'll they're both attorneys. They're very well spoken, mas falam muito, mas não dizem nada.
Bom, se os benfiquistas pensam disso nele, he's not going to win.
No, and I that's why I said
No,
to
he's
you
not gonna
earlier today, Steph, that I think Noronha has a better shot, because if you really listen to what Noronha says, he indirectly attacks Orelhas, but he's also attacking his rivals mainly in his speeches.
And you
So,
have to.
Claro, you have to. If you want to win the popular vote, you're going to have to. So, if
remember, and one more important thing, this Noronha guy, he was a vice president for Manuel Vilarinho's administration. Manuel Vilarinho is still one of the most liked people associated with Benfica. So Manuel Vilarinho, if Manuel Vilarinho comes out and actually supports him, I know that he was at a dinner or lunch over the weekend with Luis Filipe Vieira, but he refused to say that he supports Luis Filipe Vieira. If he comes out and he supports this Noronha guy,
he's going to win a lot of good votes.
There'll be issues.
He's going to win a lot of votes. All right, we're going to move forward.
I'm just going to say one more thing about this, and that's it. But it'll come a time within the Benfica elections that Noronha and Silva will talk to each other and will say, "Hey, maybe we should join forces." You'll see.
Yeah.
Because
you have one more. Bruno Carvalho too.
Yeah. They will
Bruno Costa Carvalho.
Yeah. Porque eles vão ver assim. Bom, it's better to join forces and one of them wins it, e tu dás-me tacho bom e eu fico calado.
Yeah, well, real quick, I don't think that Bruno Costa Carvalho is even going to get 5% of the vote. That's just my personal opinion. But
didn't even go for president because Luis Filipe Vieira changed the status. 20 years of socio, and he doesn't.
Yeah, well, you know why he did that? He did that to eliminate Zé Veiga, because Zé Veiga, if he ran today, he would clean all of them together combined.
I don't think it was Zé Veiga.
He's seen the match.
Oh, I think he did. I think he did that to take Rui Costa out of the equation.
Maybe.
And then give him the tacho at the side.
Maybe.
He was a threat. No.
Well, let's move forward. All right. So, Steph, we have to talk a little bit about your club, because we're starting to turn into these soccer programs on TV where we're talking 50 minutes about Benfica and then everybody else fica bolado, né? Transfer news.
It's understandable because Benfica just lost in the Champions League and they have elections coming up. So, I mean, people understand that. Go ahead.
Transfer news for your club. Acuna left. Are you satisfied or not satisfied with the amount of money that he was sold for?
Of course not. I mean, are you kidding me? That's the joke of the century. And of course, if you listen to the speech at Varandas and Luke Viana, they feed the Sportingistas that completely blinded and they love to eat shit. They'll say it's because of the COVID-19. And that's why he was sold by 10.5. And my response to them is, how much did Trincão was sold by Braga?
31 million.
Got it. How much was Fabio da Silva sold by Porto?
30 million. But we'll talk about that in a second.
Okay, no, we'll talk about it. I know where you're going with that. All I'm saying is we're talking about a
experienced player, a made player.
That's already he's a made player, professional level. He fits in right away in Sevilla. He's going to Sevilla and he's going to play right away. He's an international of Argentina. So with that said, no, I'm not happy. Of course not. It just shows you how Varandas and Luke Viana should never belong to a big club like Sporting. And they should never belong to the world of football. Might as well. They have no clue what it is. I mean, he's a doctor, isn't he?
He is a doctor.
Yes.
Doctor, so
You said doutor, Dr. Scholes.
okay. So how many coronavirus cases do we have?
Well, não
The
sei
whole,
quanto.
you have the coach, you have the doctor, you have everybody.
We have 10. So he's a doctor by profession, and out of the three big clubs, we have 10. Benfica 0, Porto 0. It shows you he's not even competent in his profession. Not even in his profession. I mean, eu sei, agora foram para o Algarve gastar mais dinheiro que não tem. It sounds like
And just on that COVID-19 thing, they had a game scheduled for last Sunday against Nápoles for the Troféu 5 Violinas, and it got canceled. Now Nápoles wants all the expenses to be paid by Sporting.
okay, but
They actually made the trip.
Yep, they were in the hotel already in Portugal.
Wow.
Yeah. Essa notícia foi fabricada por quem?
Fabricado? What do you mean fabricado?
Então, foi para desviar as atenções do Benfica que perdeu o Champions League, meu. Só quem não vê que não vê. Então, essa notícia é chouriços. Isso tem alguma importância, isso? Achas que tem alguma importância essa notícia? Olha, mas tu acreditaste nela, ainda bem. I have no doubt that the Napoli will negotiate with Sporting to play the expenses, and I agree with Napolis. But at the same time, it's just like...
So how was that produced then?
It was produced by Ebola. Ebola changed the name to Benfica newspaper. I don't read Ebola because the news they come up with is to favor Benfica all the time.
No, but you just said now that you understand that Sporting is going to pay. So how is that fabricated then?
I don't know if they will pay, because when you fly and they cancel your flight because of weather, you don't get your money back, do you?
No, but they didn't cancel the flight. They were already in Portugal in a hotel.
But then the game was canceled because of COVID-19, something you don't foresee. So I don't know if Sporting will pay anything. But if they agree on something, then they agree on something.
Not to say, but Napoli also had COVID-19 positive
president.
Yeah. So there might be a loophole there where Sporting might get out of it, but that's not even that's the least important. Steph, is there any other signings or sales that you foresee within the next 2 weeks? Because October 5th is the deadline.
Sales, only the names we have na lista de dispensa, como o Dumbia. It looks like he might be going to Turkey. But we're running out of time. So what Veranda and Luke Vian is doing as a band-aid is to loan com opção de compra. So we need money now, not later. But that's why these. So Pedro Mendes, he was officially apresentado ao Almeria, da segunda Liga Espanhola. So he's gone, Pedro Mendes. Dumbi is about to be gone. And then we still have Lori. He should never come back to Sporting. We still have Camacho, outro manco. And then we still have o filho do Bebeto, outra zebra.
O Mateus Oliveira.
He might go to Boa Vista, I believe. That's what I heard.
Sale?
No, a loan. We loan it. But we don't see any money.
And pay the salary.
Sometimes.
E o salário, não sei se a gente ainda paga 50%.
Desde que a outra equipa só paga para os COVID-19 testes, está tudo under control para o Varandas.
I mean, we might play against Gil Vicente without 50% of the team, but Gil Vicente is in bad shape too. But the game that concerns me is for the UEFA. Because it
is a playoff, correct?
It's a playoff, so it's a one game like Benfica. If we lose, we out. The only advantage we have is we play home.
And who's the potential opponents?
O Viking, o Aberdeen.
Aberdeen might be tricky. A Viking, you never know. Actually Sporting has had a lot of bad luck within the last couple of outings.
50 years.
With those Scandinavian clubs. I do remember that they've had some really bad luck over the years.
Because all they do is run, descansarem, não param de correr aqueles filhos da
Steph, I just have a question. David Pereira came on and he has a question. Have Sporting bought a right back yet? Braga interested in Maritimus Nanu. Makes me wonder if Asgaio is going back to SCP and Nanu is the replacement.
I don't think he'll go back to SCP because Salvador foi escalado com Sporting and he doesn't want to negotiate with Sporting, and I don't blame him. Even though they worked out a new deal to pay off the Ruben Amorim until June 2021. But I mean, I get it. I don't think so. I don't think this guy will come back unless Sporting pays off gives Antonio Salvador a big chunk of money, saying this. I don't think so. The rightful back at this time that we have is Rosier, but we want to get rid of him too.
How much did he cost?
5 million.
Just chump change.
Pô, Benfica é, mas é muito.
Well, 5 million já pagava metade do Amorim.
5 million já fazia uma festa de caralho, hoje com frango e azeitonas e tudo.
Com 5 million já mostravam 17 milhões de profit. Sem pagar o Amorim e os outros 59 milhões dos fornecedores também, claro.
Eu com 5 milhões eu já abri aqui um gogô aqui ao Philadelphia.
Não é preciso. O elefante branco vai abrir outra vez agora.
Eu queria um elefante de cor-de-rosa, agora branco.
Nunca ouviste falar no elefante branco?
A gente depois fala offline, senão isto aqui.
Falamos offline. Vamos lá ver um Benfica. Vamos lá ver um Benfica Sport. Vamos lá.
Steph, George, we don't want to break our record of viewers when you start talking about go-go bars, okay?
Vamos lá ver um Benfica Sporting e depois eu ensino-te aquilo tudo, o tutor todo. É logo mesmo o avião está a aterrar na pista e tu vejo logo de lado, não é preciso ir muito longe.
Olha, esse é outro canal que também devia mudar para Benfica TV, o CMTV TV. Olha, o avião do Benfica já aterrou. O avião Benfica...
Aterrou no Porto, não foi?
Eu não sei onde é que aterrou.
Eu acho que no Porto eles estavam a falar que os Super Dragões iam lá.
Então, estavam lá 10 gatos pingados a bater palmas com o Benfica. É, Benfica, eram todos baggage handlers e os gajos que they collect the cards.
Então, what you're saying is the biggest club in the world didn't have the support when they came home.
After they lose 40 million, now go to the airport either.
No, pronto.
Zivkovic ficou o jogador mais caro na história do Benfica.
But you're right, though. George...
25 milhões que nós...
When you calculate everything, and
65 million?
Yeah, that's a lot of money. I mean, hey, and you know what? That's going to sting you guys for a while.
Yeah, I think so.
Sting you now.
That's why Oliveira wants to quit.
Well, listen, very similar to what happened with Porto and Angelino Ferreira many years ago when he came in versus Fernando Gomes, the administrator, not the Vivota. When he came in, he had a completely different strategy than Angelino Ferreira. And eventually he resigned. And ever since that point, Porto has taken a tank. They tanked in their finances. Very similar to what probably the strategy of Orelhas is versus what Suarez Oliveira is saying. Yo, I don't think we should do this. We can't afford to do this. We can't afford to do that. What are you trying to do here? Because if you're going to try to find a financial plan that I have, we're not going to get to what you need to do. And right now, it seems like there's a conflict of there's a conflict between the two. One is thinking one thing, one is thinking the other, and one is not going to go forward with it. And if George is really, if it's accurate, he's going one way and the other one's going the other. Which I didn't think. I thought that they were very close knit, but
no, he's going to be out.
The problem in the football nowadays is called FIFA agents. These guys with their commissions, we were making fun of João Felix, how much money Benfica really got. And we'll talk about Fabio Silva, I'm pretty sure. But
yeah.
Also got stung big time by Jorge Mendes. I mean, $7 million commission. Why?
In two different cases.
But
10
why?
million.
Why?
10 million.
Why?
No, well, I'll explain that in a second. Go ahead. Finish, Steph.
But why is a FIFA agent getting so much money? I mean, just
25%.
that's a lot. That's too much money. Who's paying for who's suffering with all this? I mean,
Oh,
this
cool.
commission for the agents, because from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's a commission that goes sometimes to the president, to certain vice president, and even to the coach. I heard that Jorge Jesus, if he proposes a player to come to, when he was at Flamengo, when he was at Sporting, now he's at Benfica again, that he gets a commission too.
Claro.
What I heard, and I couldn't
Yeah.
believe it. I'm like,
You know what started that stuff?
Nós
Quem
só, nós só pagamos commissions ao Paulo Gonçalves, não pagamos commissions a mais ninguém.
Steph, you know who started that? Steph, you know who started that?
tá falar a sério?
No, Steph, you know who started that? Luis Felipe Scolari.
Listen, mas quem está sempre fodido é o
Those
clube.
clubes.
É o Porto, Benfica, Sporting, because we have not only soccer teams, but we have basketball teams, handball teams. So we have a lot of people that we support. I know we only talk about soccer, but all the other modalities, we have professional athletes. The money of a sale of a player, it goes for all that. And then when the club is being taken advantage of, the brand name of Sporting Clube Portugal, the brand name of Sporting Clube Benfica, the brand name of Futebol Clube Porto, because that's what these people, these match noises, they doing. They're using the brand name of the club to become rich and rich and richer, and that's why presidents like Luis Vieira, Bruno Carvalho. I'm sorry, Bruno, but I'll have to include Pinto Costa porque ele também é gatuno. I'm sorry. But não vamos dizer que ele é santo que não é. They should be out of soccer, the football world, because all they're doing is destroying their own clubs. Why is Sporting such a mess when Porto is ranked the #1 of sales the last 20 years? You made more money than Benfica. Benfica now has caught up because of the sale of João Felix. But os Portistas, you guys sold more money. You sold more players and made more money. Where's the money? Where's the money?
Well, let's talk a little bit about Porto. I mean, Fabio Silva left 40 million, but in reality, it was 30 million. There was 10 million paid in commissions, 7 to Jorge Mendes, 3 million to his father.
The father.
Yes.
3 million. No, not bad. You're making 3 million off your son. And then we loaned out Vitinha, which I think that was even the worst of the deals. So let's start with Fabio Silva.
Hold on. The Vitinha deal, from what I understand, Vitinha deal is actually a sale, but is actually going under this year as a loan, so it appears as a sale in the next year.
Next year. Very good, George.
20 million.
That is good. Now, let's start with Fabio Silva, and I want to break it down. Fabio Silva, right now people can say, well, that was a good sale, because I've heard both. I hear people say it was a good sale, and I've heard people say it was a bad sale. So let's start with, is it a good sale? 40 million, 30 million. Is 30 million a good sale for one of the most promising players in Europe at 18? Top ranked player at 18 years old as a striker? The answer is, to me, no, because he barely played. 30 million, a lot of people say, well, he barely played, so you got 30 million for a guy that barely played. That sounds like a good idea. That sounds like a good deal. I say no, because if he actually played, he'd be worth 50, 60, and that's even without scoring goals. So let's say if he starts scoring goals, 90, 100 million, we don't know.
Same thing that happened with João Felix. You don't put him playing. You sell him for 30, 40. You put him playing for 6 months, and you sell him for 120.
Claro, because why, George? Why?
Because you put him playing.
You put him playing, and what else? You scored goals.
Yeah.
Claro. When you start, the strikers,
but you can't score goals in the bench or on the bancada.
So what I'm trying to say is you can't measure a player. Like, strikers is the only position on the field where the value can go astronomically high or take a plummet really low. That's the only position, because if a guy's scoring goals, there's going to be high demand for the guy. People are going to want to pay. If he's not scoring goals, his value decreases significantly. So right now for Fabio Silva, I think that was a bad move because number one, he's not ready. And I don't think he really wanted to go, because if you really read into what he said in his statement, it was a move that he didn't say it was forced to make, but he was forced to make. And, a lot of people, a lot of fans will argue, yeah, but he always has the right to say no. Yes, he does have the right to say no. Right now, it's like, no, you have to go, and that's it. We're sold. We're selling you, and that's end of story. I don't think that it was a good sale, because again, if he was sold for 30 million and he didn't play, imagine if he actually did play, and imagine if he actually scored goals. That we lost a major opportunity for a guy that we could have cashed in 3 times of what we received. Let's go now to the Vitinha deal. So Vitinha, the way I classify him is he's going to be the next João Moutinho. Very similar player. Builds up the attack very well, but he's very balanced defensively. He's a true number 8, very good center midfielder. He was rated number 2 in our academy. Number 1 is Fabio Vieira. Number 2 is Vitinha. Number 3 is Fabio Silva. We sold 2 of our top 3 prospects for the amount of 50 million euros. Now, if you're saying, but Bruno, he's on a loan. We need money now. We don't need money a year from now, like George is saying. To me, that doesn't interest me what happens a year from now. I'm worried about right now. I'm living in the present right now. And we're getting $0 for a guy that we need, that's valuable. And I wouldn't be as mad if the player was with an option to buy between 30 and 40 million. If it's 30 and 40 million, okay, I'd say that's a good deal. 20 million, but we're now giving away players. That to me doesn't make sense to me.
You're giving away Umar Cunha was for free.
Boys,
for free.
We're not debating that stuff. I mean, I think what right now what's going to happen, I think Benfica is going to go through it in the next 2 weeks. They're going to go through it. They know that other clubs are going to look at Benfica and they're like, all right, they just lost out on 40 million. They have to make money. Hey, that player, Vinicius, you were asking for 60 million. He was your top goal scorer in your league. We know that you need money, and we'll be able to. We're willing to pay 25 million euros. You willing to take that money?
Tottenham just offered 30 for him, though.
Bronze. There you go. Half of what he was worth 2 months ago. Half of what he was worth 2 months ago.
And that's still a good deal, 30. I mean, Benfica, they'll take it because they need to offset the salaries. Agora não há receitas para pagar os
salários. Steph, they won't take it because the salaries is not coming from Vinicius. Vinicius is probably one of the worst paid players right now in the Pontel. The money's coming from
all the new players that you've gotten. They have really astronomical salaries.
That's what I'm saying. Of course.
Yeah.
George, you're comparing to what the new players came in, where he ranks after the new players got signed.
That's what I'm saying. So it doesn't help. It doesn't help us with the fair play financeiro. It doesn't help us if we get rid of Vinicius because
we're not talking about the fair play financeiro. A gente está a falar agora que o Benfica não vai ter dinheiro para pagar os ordenados.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Olá. As receitas que o Benfica perdeu de 40 milhões, os direitos televisivos que o Bruno acabou de falar, the merchandise that it's not sold, and it's not only Benfica, it's sold almost every club, because fans, they're not going to the stands, they're not eating, they're not drinking, they're not buying merchandise. It's sold
it's a million euros a game.
Huh?
That's €1 million a game. So 16 games, you're looking at 16 million.
17.
More. Much
17
more.
million.
There were average how many people in the stadium?
It gives about 1 million. It's about €1 million a game. That you get.
Okay, and then the merchandise that they sell. And then there's a lot of stuff that Benfica is not making, and Sporting and Porto equally the same. They're not making either. All I'm saying is, Benfica vai pedir outro empréstimo ao banco, outro empréstimo ao banco. E quem é que fica mal? Fica mal o Sporting, Lisboa e Benfica, não é o Luís Vieira.
Well, going back to this whole situation. Now we have another problem. Kind of what we were talking about a little bit about Benfica, and I'm talking about Porto.
Pois.
We have Del Luis. We bought him for 12 million last year. The best offer we got right now on the table is 8 million.
Claro.
And that's for next year. So it's loan with option to buy next year. And if they have a very similar deal of what they did with Osorio, where they blew it because they were in the verbiage of the contract that said he has to have 5 league appearances, and he only did 4. He had to 5 league appearances, not 5 league appearances, 5 league starts. If he had 5 league starts, they would have to pay 8 million euros. He did more than 5 starts, but it was not in the league. It was in other competitions. So right there, Porto lost 8 million. We're going to lose money on Zé Luis. Suarez, who was one of our top goal scorers these last couple of years, the most we're going to be able to get for him is about 15 million. For a guy that 2 weeks ago, about 2 to 3 weeks ago, he was worth 25-30. Now he's only at 15 million or 13 million or something like that.
But there's one thing that you have to take into account com Futebol com Porto, is that you guys are in the Champions League. So
yeah, but Steph, we can't have all these strikers, man.
No. All I'm saying is, you get a victory, já vem mais uns milhões. So you have a chance to make a lot of money, which Sporting and Benfica in the Liga Europa, it's like peanuts comparing to a victory in the Champions League.
Claro. But Steph, here's another problem. Porto has 9 players, and I think 6 of them are starters, that they end their contract in January. So in 3 months, they can walk for free. Now you're talking about Acuna, a very good player. He was sold for 10.5 million. We might be losing Alex Telles. We might have to be selling this guy anywhere between 50 and 20 million. I said this 3 months ago, if you recall, in one of our first shows.
That's something Cadillac Porto has to overcome and has to make it happen. They need to.
Steph, I'm Alex Telles. You're Pinta Costa, right? I'm gonna go up to you and I'm gonna say, listen, I demand 4 million clean for me to re-sign for 1 year, so you get paid. You can't pay me 4 million a year.
And you know what?
So, but why? But as a Porto socio, I'm going to ask you, why did you wait until the last year to resign him?
But
because he's been asking for 4 million this whole time.
Then you sell him last year and you get the 30-40 million for him.
But Bruno, this is what you failed to realize something. The 4 million he's asking for in salaries, let's say if he's asking for that amount, okay, he's not getting 4 million right there and then. It's 4 million divided by 12, correct? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what?
14.
So what Porto has to do is say, okay, a gente faz esse contrato, and then they sell him. Now they have the upper hand.
They did that a lot of times already.
Yeah, we have, but like a couple of years ago, it was last year with Herrera. He was asking for 6 million. Bro, they've been at the club for a couple of years now. You don't know where their club is at? Why are you even asking that? Basically, what you're doing is you're spitting on the.
But they don't give a shit. They're not Portuguese. They don't care about the shirt that they wear, dude. They care about the bank account. They don't give a shit.
Okay, but that's something that. But we made Alex Telles to who he is. Herrera. Who is Herrera before and after Porto? He was nobody. And look at him now. He's a nobody again. He was a nobody.
Where's Brahimi? Where's all those clowns?
There's a lot of players. There's a lot of players that have left the Portuguese league, tanto Porto como Sporting como Benfica, and they admit they regret it. They wish they would have stayed. They, like o caso mais recente foi o Otamendi, né? O central.
Yeah. No, Otamendi's been out for a long time.
Okay, but I know what he means. You know what? If he was never treated as good as when he was in Portugal.
But at the
But
same,
of, but of course they're not treated as good as they're in Portugal. But the problem is now they make 6 million euros or whatever, and you
course,
think they give two craps about coming back to Porto where they treated them nice and only get paid 1 million or 2 million. That those players that do that are the Peps. Those players that do that are the Adrian Silvas that wanted to come
of
back
course.
to Sporting. Those are the players that do that. Those are the Rui Costas that come back and sign the contract with no salary on it. Those are the players that do that. These players that come from the Amazonia, all they want to is get paid. They don't care about the shirt they
Why,
wear.
why,
Come on.
why, why didn't Quaresma come back to Futebol Clube Porto? If we
Well, that we can handle
Because
all
they didn't
that.
want him. Because they didn't want him.
why?
Not they didn't want him. Not they
No,
didn't want him.
Sergio Conceição did not want him.
Okay. It's not they.
Por
It's,
quê?
it's that only one guy that didn't want him.
E porquê que não quis?
Agora, that's a good question.
Pois, eu já vou dizer porquê.
Because he has a whole bunch of streams already that do the position better than him.
No, no.
I know, Bruno, it's a joke. I know.
Não é, mesmo que fosse verdade, but it's not the only reason. O Quaresma também vem cheio de manias. É um gajo milionário.
What?
No, I don't think so.
No, yeah, dude.
think
You're
so.
talking, hey, George. You're talking about two alpha males, and I'm talking about super alpha males
They play
in the same locker room.
They know each other quite well.
And they know each other quite well. One was leaving while the other one's coming in.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something, George. Let's just say, I'm just using this. Remember, let's go back a little bit. It was 2004 when Conceição returned, right? He played that year that they won the Champions League. When he signed I think it was a 2 or 3 year deal at the time. Well, remember Porto's deal to get Ricardo Quaresma. Do you remember?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it was a trade with Deco, right? So they got Deco and Quaresma back. Now, Sergio Conceição re-signed with Porto. He came back. All of a sudden, they must have said, "Hey, listen, Conceição, this is going to be the situation. We just got a new kid that just came in, that we got from the Deco deal. He's going to be our starter because he's much younger. You're already on the tail end of your career. You want to stay or do you want to go?" And bro, that's when he left. He went to PAOK. You on for PAOK? And there might be some bad blood there, because Conceição, that was the guy that replaced me from being in the club that I wanted to be. I came back to Porto to be back, and this guy came and he kicked me out. That to me is that's the way I look at it. Yeah. Because those are two alpha males that are huge. They're very stubborn together, man.
Vamos começar a falar da próxima jornada, que já vai 1h15 minutos.
Sim. Just really quick, Johnny Cineiro, I think that's your friend, right, Steph?
Eu teve no nosso show, caralho.
Pronto, Johnny. Yeah, Johnny. He says Fabio Silva's going to blow up when Ronaldo was sold to Man U. I don't know about all that. Same scenario. I'm getting sick and tired of Moutinho's face, and Quaresma doesn't fit in Porto's system right now, which is true. He doesn't.
No,
já não tem pernas para aquilo.
Yeah, Johnny's right on the money.
Okay, let's go to our predictions for the league. Steph, who's winning the league this year? The Portuguese league.
I don't know, bro. It's too early to even make a prediction because
you're
it's too early. I mean, you just saw Benfica not doing what they were supposed to, but at the same time they do have a good coach. They do have some good players, but let's see if they can find the chemistry and the magic to make it happen. At the same time, Porto, it's still very uncertain. They got some good signings, but like you said, they might lose 6 players in January, so very dicey. And Sporting, I like if Pedinha, I love it. That's a very good news. But I still think we need a striker and another center back, and then we'll be in good shape. I love the signings that we got. I love Porto. They know the Portuguese league quite well, and what I've done, it's good. So, and I like Braga. Braga has a very consistent, very good team. Even Guimarães, they and Boa Vista, they have some good signings as well. So, I think it'll be the typical 3 teams but I even include Braga. I think we have 4 teams for the title race. I think this time Braga has some depth that they haven't had before. But the typical chronics, Benfica, Porto, and then Sporting and Braga on the outside will be, into the race. But I still give the leverage to Benfica, Porto. But I do like the signing from my club, from Braga and Boa Vista, and even Guimarães. So I think it's possibly one of the most we'll ever see. But let's see if the COVID-19 is not going to fuck it up.
Right, George. Do you have a prediction? Who's winning the league?
I think after the crash yesterday of the Ferrari goes back into the mechanic shop, gets fixed, and runs over everyone for the league.
Hey, shot confiança good.
And I think Braga finishes second.
I think
Epa, já está Santa Aliança ao step.
Wishful thinking.
é isso que mata a mente do benfiquista. Arrogante.
I said wishful thinking, Steph. Wishful thinking.
Okay.
Okay, but I'm
not gonna go against my team. I think my team has a great coach. I think we have a good squad. I think if we're able to get through the first month and a half of games until the team gets to learn Jota's method and get a little bit more acquainted with his style of playing, especially on the defensive side and the overall team aspect of defending. I think I like Benfica.
Okay, I'm gonna give you guys my prediction. But before I do, I'm gonna just bring up David Pereira. He really believes that Braga's gonna come through this year. He says that they won't finish 20 points out. They're gonna close the gap. So I don't know what that means. I don't know if it's 19 points, if it's 10 points, 5 points. I'm not sure. But he did bring up a very, very, very good point. Let's all forget that this upcoming season, the champion and the second place team go directly into Champions League, and the third place team goes to a third qualifier. So does that mean for Braga? Does that mean for Sporting that, or whoever? It doesn't matter. I'm just saying. On paper, those are the two favorites, Porto and Benfica, and then Sporting and Braga. But that's going to be a huge race down the line for that spot.
I do think Braga finishes second, though.
You believe?
I agree with George. I think Braga finishes second and Filial Sporting e Sporting in primeiro. It's going to be an interesting league this year, I think.
Oh yeah, for sure. I do believe that. I still believe in Porto's they have the experience. They're gonna hold on to some players. Unfortunately, they're gonna walk for free. But I think that Porto, the way their strategy is, they'd rather go into Champions League, get those 40 million from them, because if you try to sell some of those guys after, even if they re-sign for a year or two, you're probably going to combine 4 or 5 of those guys. They're not going to equal up to 40 million. So
let's not forget that this is based on who's going to be the most regular team playing against, the 34 games against all the other teams. So it's going to be who's going to be the most regular team. So if my Sporting, for example, behaves and doesn't lose against Moreirense, Famalicões, e mais os Colhões, then we'll have a good chance of a shot to win the title if we in the striking distance. Because if you look at where Benfica lost the championship, it was against the small teams. But of course, Porto lost against them twice. It was 6 points right away. But if my team and your teams as well, we win all the small games, then they have a better chance to be champions of Portugal.
All right. Well, I'm going to predict. I'm going to go Port first.
No.
I'm going to say
no. Oh my God! I didn't see that coming.
Port first. I will say Benfica will finish second. I will say Sporting finishes third. I don't believe in Braga. I will say it again. They signed a lot of good players, but they're washed up. Gaitan, washed up. Andre Castro, washed up. They do have the Horta brothers. They do have a couple other guys that are good players, but they're not going to have the consistency that I think Steph is talking about. I view it.
Remember somebody that they have though.
Who Carvalhal?
Mr. Carvalhal.
Okay, I'm gonna say Guimarães finishes 4th.
Guimarães,
and I'm gonna tell you why. They have invested heavily in the English market. They went to look for 4 or 5 different Marcus Edwards this year, not just one.
I
It's
get
5.
Guimarães is very inconsistent, and that's the problem with them.
Okay, well, I think that they're gonna finish 4th, and I will say that Boa Vista, although a lot of names are being signed, are they practical? The answer is no. Those guys have. If you look at, I think Rami, I think he's played 16 games in 3 years. That's a big name, but in 3 years you played 16 games. How important? How influential are you?
Why you only play 16 games?
Huh?
Because I know why. He was watching too much Baywatch and caught some crabs.
Eu não sei.
Eu estava lá com a Pamela, eles iam fazer 13 vezes à noite, 13.
Então, teve mais sorte do que nós os 3.
Caraca, pai, aquilo é só tirar a borracha queimada.
George, top 5, go ahead.
O quê?
Top 5.
Top 5. Benfica. Braga.
Uh-huh.
Porto.
Uh-huh.
Sporting.
Uh-huh.
Guimarães.
Steph.
Ok, então eu vou jogar o vosso jogo, que é bastante estúpido, mas eu para mim não dá para dizer quem é que vai ser campeão nacional nesta altura. It's impossible to even flirt with the idea, but I'll play a stupid game. And of course, what I'm about to say, it will make no sense, but I'll say it. Sporting Braga.
Oh, you meant Sporting Braga wins.
Guimarães.
Foda-se.
Boa Vista. Porto, Benfica. I said top 6 até.
Okay. All right, George, who drops?
Mas não dá para ver, meu.
Não dá para ver.
Não dá para ver essas coisas,
meu. Dá para ver.
Não dá.
Tudo ver. Prediction.
Deixa
Have some fun, man.
I gotta look.
One quarter to the championship, maybe, but no, it's too soon.
I'm gonna tell you, my pick is going to be Farense. Once mete na cama com o Benfica, já sabes, já está destinado. Farense will drop in the first division, and the other team that will drop is going to be Nacional. So the 2 teams that come up, they will drop.
Okay.
Anybody else?
I know about that. We'll see.
Steph is thinking hard. Who is he going to pick? Bulnens?
He hates Bulnens.
Well, I'll tell you, Bulnens, they've lost a lot of players, and they didn't get anybody.
I can't pick anybody. It's too soon. I don't even know which kind of contratações the other teams gotten, so I can't even.
I think the one team that everyone's going to be disappointed is Famalicão, because they lost, I think, their top 5 players and didn't replace them with anybody.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying. The market's still open until the 5th of October, so you still have moves.
But you know what? I don't agree with teams trying to build a team with going into the first week of the season, or already the season is playing, and you're building your team, because it takes about a month to 2 months for them to start really gelling. By then, you've lost 10 points.
I agree, and that's That's why Benfica didn't win against PAOK, because it's a brand new team and brand new coach, and PAOK,
it's a different style of play.
Oh, wow. I agree. Aquilo era jogo da Taça Portugal. It was a one game, and above Freire, prepared the game better than Jorge Jesus. Jorge Jesus veio com bullshit do caralho e fodeu-se. Porque o bullshit não ganha jogos. O que ganha jogos é prática, dinâmicas, and Benfica is not there yet. I have no doubt that later on they'll start winning and playing better, but they're not even close. The Benfica we saw, eu pensava que era o Benfica Castelo Branco.
Não, também não foi assim tão mal. Também. Benfica marcava.
A falhar daquela maneira, paga-me a mim os ordenados chorudos que vou para lá fazer aquela figura triste.
Está bem, mas isso é outra coisa. Se não tivesse oportunidades, ok, o Benfica se marcava um gol na primeira parte, ganhava 3 ou 4-0 o jogo.
Como é que sofre 2 gols daquela maneira?
Hey, Steph, I have a question for you. David Pereira, ready? Steph, is SCP better now than when they started last season on paper?
On paper, I think SCP is better now if they don't sell anybody else and we get a good striker and center back. We still need a back and center back. And then better than last year, yes.
George, who's dropping?
Dude, I don't know who's dropping, bro. It's too early. I mean, normally the first candidates are the ones that just came up, right? Because they have the least amount of a payroll and they're new to the league. So on paper right now, you look at Farense, like you said, and you look at Nacional. But you got teams like Portimonense that should have dropped, that didn't drop because of the whole Vitória de Setúbal deal. You have Belenenses that are all a broken down team. Have to go play somewhere in the middle of a forest somewhere. A SAD é uma coisa, o clube é outra. A bunch of baloney. So,
para me perguntares a mim quem que eu quero, drops, I'll give you an answer.
Okay, who do you want to drop then?
Marítimo e Belenenses.
Marítimo e Belenenses. O Belenenses... o Belenenses é um B, não é? Agora é um B.
B-Estado.
And o Marítimos é um clube fanfarrão. No,
see how I told you? See? Look at that.
É um clube que está submetido ao Benficazão, questão.
Não, eu acho que não. Mas eu acho que o Marítimo já está a precisar de ir lá para baixo para ver se aquele Pereira se apanha um bocado de juízo.
All right.
I still think you guys are not giving too much credit to Braga. And
what do you mean I'm not giving too much credit to Braga? I said they're going to finish second.
Pois, eu acho que não. Eu acho que o Braga este ano acaba em cima de Benfica.
Acaba em cima do Benfica.
Ei, isso é demais. Nunca acontece.
Andas a ver muitos filmes de cowboys. Ou então andas aí a apanhar o CBD todo aí que está a ser transportado e andas a testá-lo, se calhar. Deves andar. Deves andar.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. Top goal scorer, Steph. Who's the top goal scorer?
Vai ser o Jorge Fernandes. Vai ser. Tu estás a fazer perguntas do caralho, because if Benfica has to sell maybe Vinicius,
I would say he's not starting, dude.
I would say with the full season, I'm gonna say the typical players either from Sporting, Porto, Benfica, and if Paulinho stays at Braga and he pulls up the same season. But I like the fact that Utarim went to Porto. I don't like that. I wish he was at Sporting, actually. But he'll be better served with better quality. So now
vocês não vão entender nada disto.
Utarim has a better chance of becoming one of the top scorers of the Portuguese league. But I like Sporar. But at the same time, Sporting does need another striker. So let's see who we get. And I hope we still do Porto.
Better score, o melhor marcador, o Esporrara, quem?
O Esporrara com a tua mão.
Vocês não sabem, não estão a entender isto. O melhor marcador do campeonato vai ser o Cavani. Não sabe para que equipa que ainda vai assinar, mas ele é que vai ser o melhor marcador do campeonato.
Cavani.
Já vi
O que
o
vai
Cavani
acontecer?
eu já vi o Cavani com a camisola de Sporting, Benfica e de Porto.
Ele anda agora, ele anda agora a dançar balé só para, just to get more flexible e depois vamos ver.
After yesterday, Steph, after yesterday, he got on a plane and went to Ibiza.
Não, olha, ele, o Cavani, eu não tenho dúvida nenhuma que na segunda mão contra o PAOK vai marcar 3 gols.
Oh man.
Uhum.
Okay.
Uhum.
We have Johnny Cinedo, sorry. He said Tiago Tomás is going to be the top goal scorer.
Who the hell is that?
É o puto do Sporting.
And then we have a question from David Pereira. Last question. What are our thoughts about Antonio Oliveira? So try to keep it under 30 seconds. Antonio Oliveira, George, what do you think about him? Sorry, not Antonio Oliveira. Antonio Salvador. Antonio Salvador.
What do I think about Antonio Salvador? I wish he was my president.
You wish he was your president. Any reason why?
No, I think he's a tough negotiator. I think he turned around Sport Club Braga. He's very, it looks like he's a Pinto da Costa disciple, and I like that.
Okay, Steph, you've talked about him in the past.
Yeah, I feel the same way towards him. Basically, I follow the same line of thought because he has a good grip of reality. He doesn't put the club in a position like Luis Vieira has done so far, in a very delicate position. He put Benfica in, financially I'm talking about. And the same thing, he's much better than Varandas, 20 times better. Look at how como ele papou Sporting. Sporting, basically, how much money did we owe them? I lost count. He's a tough negotiator, like he said. He's won some important titles that we never speak about, but I do know it, and I will do it for the Adeptos do Braga. The ladies became champions of Portugal last year, or 2 years ago. Last year didn't count for anybody. They've won o futebol de praia, campeonatos nacionais nos últimos 3 anos, salvo erro.
E europeus.
I was about to get to that. Europeus. They've won championships in the youth as well. So he's done a lot of good things for the club of Braga. And I wish he was my president too, just like George said. I think he's the number 1 ranked president as far as negotiation, top negotiator. He's much better than Varandas, Vieira, and Costa. Because Porto financially is a disaster as well. And Braga financially, I think he's the best club in Portugal with more wealth and healthy wise.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'll second. I believe everything that you guys said. I'm a big believer that he's definitely one of the best negotiators, if not the best negotiator right now in Portugal in terms of a president. He's got the academy going in the right direction. They're bringing up more and more talent each and every year. So they're doing it the right way. They're doing it the right way. And this Trincão kid, he looks like he's going to be a baller because his debut on Barcelona was a very positive one, and we'll see what happens. And that's going to put Braga on the map. If you date, I'm not talking about at a European level. Braga's going to be on the map because they're not on the map yet.
And today he had an assist already too.
Okay.
There's one thing I forgot to say about the big impact of Benfica being eliminated with Juniors Benfica, then won't be in the youth league, and that's an attractive thing to attract young players to a club, and that's a trump that Benfica lost. Now
that's a great point, Steph. That's a great point.
I forgot to mention that before.
All right, we covered a lot of stuff. We got our predictions in. We talked about the Benfica debacle in Greece. We talked about the transfers. Next week we have we have Famalicão Benfica.
Lá no Norte.
Famalicão Benfica. George, What's your prediction?
2-0 Benfica.
2-0. Steph.
I'm gonna say I'm gonna say 1 or 2-0 Benfica, just because on paper they look better, and Famalicão, the signings, they don't convince me. But I still think Benfica didn't have enough time of gelling, but I still think they will win.
Okay.
Cavani scored both.
I'm gonna go Famalicão 0, Benfica 1. Sporting Gil Vicente. Steph.
Fuck, man. I don't know. We have 10 COVID-19 cases. Gil Vicente tem 15. I still think we win just because they have more cases than we do. Isto parece resultado de handball 10-15, oh caralho. I would say Sporting 2-0, just because Gil Vicente is also in a very, very bad spot with COVID-19 cases.
George.
Sporting, on its way to his to the first title in 20 years, loses 1-0 against Gil Vicente.
Yep. I'm actually gonna go.
É mesmo ranhoso. Agora que eu estava a gostar. É o ranhoso, caralho, meu.
I'm gonna go Sporting 0, Gil Vicente 0, because, and I'm gonna tell you why. Steph brought up a really good point. We don't know what players Gil Vicente is gonna play with. And usually when players get this opportunity to open up the season against in the first division, they're gonna get extra motivated. It's gonna be like one of those Taça de Portugal games, and Sporting is gonna feel it. And I think they succumb to the pressure, and it's gonna be one of those games for Sporting fans where the ball's just not gonna go in, no matter how good they play, no matter how many balls they put in the box, no matter how many shots.
Olha, vou falar uma coisa. Há bocadinho o Jorge disse assim: estou a ver o filme de cowboys. E tu estás a ver o filme de índios? Foda-se.
De índios.
Vai à bruxa, meu. Vai à bruxa.
Vamos ver.
All right. Porto versus Braga. That's the big game of the week. I have Porto winning 1-0. We have to be Braga. That's it.
Que caralho.
Oh, goal de Ivan Nilsson. That's going to be my player. The top goal scorer of the league is going to be Ivan Nilsson. Steph.
Braga 3-0.
3-0, okay. George.
Porto 1, Braga 3.
Epa!
Aí eu vou mudar do Famalicão, Benfica. 2-1 para o Famalicão, foda-se.
All right, guys. That is it for today. We're going to say Tchau Laura to everybody. Join us next week. Vai ser uma fim de semana em cheio.
I think the jogo Sporting Gil Vicente might be cancelled.
You think so?
Or delayed.
Oh, postponed?
Yeah, because tomorrow they have the final testing, and then the DGS vai decidir.
All right. Guys, that's it.
And they lowered down the quarantine from 14 to 10 days. I don't know why. I don't know who makes these decisions.
They want to get the game in. I think Proença wants to get the game in. But
I think they said que se as pessoas beberem cálice de vinho por todos os dias, que mata o vírus.
Já mata o vírus, ok.
A terra tem que ser bagaço.
De bagaço, pronto. Guys, enjoy your week.
Onde está o Cavani?
Não, o Cavani já apareceu.
Vindo para a festa.
Isso foi ontem. A festa foi ontem, hein? Anyway, guys, enjoy your week. Enjoy your football. We'll be back next week. Make sure you stay clean. Make sure you wash your hands. Make sure you wear your mask. Okay? Olha, o Steph tá de azul,
Sabes porquê? O azul apanha a merda toda.
Até apanha uma caraças. Alright, guys.
Make sure you mask on antes de fazer minete.
Tchau, Laura, Steph. Tchau, Laura.